So, it's about 11:30 p.m. It's May 25th, 2023. I'm watching a live stream of the Illinois General Assembly. I'm going to turn it up for a moment just to
It does not authorize
so you can hear how riveting this is.
Far from that. There's a lot of other processes that have to take place before that happens.
So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on over here. We heard about CRS programs for schools and the need for something. I don't know. There's stuff going on though I just did a podcast with Philip. We just actually released it. So if you've not checked that out yet, check it out. He's my friend, and we were talking about something that's been on the show in the past, which is that it's just ironic that these people work for only 6 months of the year, but actually only end up showing up for 2 months of that, and then show up on the last night, which is tonight, and just push it until 11:30, which is about the time. But that's not what we're talking about in this episode. Justine was sharing an interesting thought she saw on LinkedIn, and I asked her if she could restart that thought for the podcast because I realized she might have some insights for us as we move forward. And so we'll get to that. But Justine, why don't you restart the thought that you just had for our listening audience?
Yeah, so basically I saw this post from somebody that I'm presuming is quite wealthy and has a stake in the game in the cannabis industry. And they were commenting on how they were happy that Illinois was switching their seed-to-sale tracking system from BioTrack to Metrc. And they mentioned that what they were happy about in this changeover had to do with point-of-sale systems. So that's like the register that you check out on when you're at the dispensary, or any retail place, any fast food restaurant, anything like that. But the change over from BioTrack to Metrc is going to impact the cannabis point of sale industry because BioTrack has an integrated point of sale in its platform, but Metrc does not. So my impression of this post was that this was a person who was essentially just openly bragging about the fact that now cannabis business owners in Illinois who have dispensaries are going to be essentially forced to invest in a point-of-sale system. And that point-of-sale system will have to be able to be integrated with Metrc, which not all are. Most are. The ones that have the biggest stake in the game learned that pretty early and are able to do that. But, just like any other industry, there are smaller people who are going to try to get into the state as quickly as they can. It's going to be kind of a nightmare, but more so for the dispensary personnel than the consumer, luckily. But I would expect that there's probably going to be potentially slowdowns at the dispensary just because it's going to be staff members potentially learning new platforms. But
Sure. So yeah, I'm just curious, what I was thinking about when you brought this up. I don't want to move too far away from the post that you were just discussing, but really what I thought you might be able to add, just for I guess even insight for customers, but maybe even I get the sense that a lot of employees or people that work in the industry listen to this show. Mm-hmm. And so you remind our listeners you were a bud tender in the past for the medical cannabis program.
I was
an agent in charge, actually.
Yeah, and then I moved from that into working in cannabis technology, doing support for a retail point-of-sale system.
Yeah. So the reason I bring it up is because, and the reason I wanted to just, for folks that are listening, we didn't plan to I'm rolling up a joint right now. Again, we're watching the General Assembly. We didn't plan to do this podcast. It was just kind of impromptu. But for folks that don't know, Metrc recently released a press release that the state of Illinois has intended to award them a contract, or at least released intent to award them a contract to become our new seed-to-sale system. And I realized that I'm sitting next to a person that has experience working with both BioTrack and Metrc, and I guess I just wanted to ask, I really don't think this is going to affect consumers so much. I have heard, just right off the bat, that there are some technical barriers that are preventing seeds from being sold in dispensaries. For example, with BioTrack, you can't sell static items. I'm doing air quotes from the state because they've said that, but I've also heard that it's just like a technical barrier, maybe either with the version of BioTrack that we contracted or I don't know. I've also heard that the reason that medical cannabis patients can't shop at every dispensary at the medical cannabis tax rate is not only a complication of law, but again, excuse me, BioTrack. So those are a few ways I think that this switchover could impact the everyday consumer, but I don't envision that the seed to sale tracking system really plays any importance or role in my everyday life as a consumer. So the reason I wanted, unless you disagree.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. It really shouldn't impact consumers at all. I would think, yeah, like I said earlier, at most you may experience some slowdowns while people are learning a new platform. Or, stuff like if you have loyalty points, those may not transfer over, but I'm sure they will.
Because that would be the part of the point of sale system, right? And if they've got to get a new point of sale system to accommodate the switch over to BioTrack, you're saying this. Okay, so if you got points, perhaps maybe consider.
But that being said, there are point of sale systems that support loyalty point programs that they can transfer those points and patient profiles into a third party point of sale. So you may not lose out. You might. I don't know. It depends
I was gonna say, as somebody who has had to bank on those points in the past, I personally don't shop at Illinois dispensaries right now. If I have to, I will. I always try to say that. It's not like I'm any better than anybody that does choose to or has to shop at an Illinois dispensary. I'm not saying that. I just choose not to. I'm in a privileged place where I'm able to not do that. And so, again, just wanted to say that. But where were we? I got off on that, trying to make sure that I wasn't sounding holier than thou.
You were asking if there may be impact to consumers.
Yeah, so I don't think there will be impact to consumers, but I guess what I wanted to ask about, again, since industry is listening, maybe what they can expect. What did you notice? Because I would have to imagine that, given everything that I've said, that BioTrack in the state of Illinois has not changed much since you've left. Given that, let's just assume that, and maybe that assumption's wrong. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind, folks. Henceforth, the conversation could be inaccurate. But let's just assume nothing has changed, because I don't think anything has. You have experience with BioTrack, and now we're going to Metrc. Mm-hmm. Lay it out for me. I mean, there's probably some visual differences with the graphical user interface, the GUI.
Yeah.
What else?
It's still much like BioTrack. Looks like it was built sometime in the late 90s and not really improved upon.
In the late 90s?
Yeah, BioTrack is very archaic.
You're teaching me, but you're teaching me things right now. Was it literally built in the late 90s?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't think so.
I was gonna say that seems like ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Seed to sale wouldn't be around in the 90s, but I don't know.
No, I mean it's just it's very basic. I think the biggest thing will be more for cultivation employees. It's a completely new tagging system that is going to create a ton more waste because we don't already have that.
I want. Sorry to cut you off. I have a tendency to do that. You know me more than ever. But I'm wondering if you've got plants going in the seed to sale. Is there a conversion? Like think
Should
about
be.
that. I mean that. Well, yeah, right. There should be, but like, is there maybe is it that you transfer it from BioTrack to Metrc, or is it that you keep the systems stood up alongside until it's sold all the way?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's
yeah.
a certain point where it's like, okay, everything that was in BioTrack is sold now.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can, and the seeds that were planted in Metrc have, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you, like...
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But so when I was working at the cannabis technology company, GrowFlow, I was part of a migration that we did for the state of Oklahoma to Metrc. They went from self-reporting onto Metrc. And so there is, I mean, that it's data migration. It's easy enough to do. It's going to depend on whatever, if they choose a third-party system, or there are ways that you can, import your data into Metrc, or you're going to, people at the cultivation facility, you're going to be sitting around at computers for a few days just manually inputting tag numbers and plants and, plant days and...
Yeah. It's crazy to hear that Oklahoma, I mean, it's not surprising, but it's crazy to hear that Oklahoma was self-reporting. I never really thought about what you meant by that until you just said they went from self-reporting to Metrc. Mm-hmm. So in other words, what did that look like?
It went from basically, there were some business owners were using spreadsheets to keep track of everything.
But what is everything?
Everything. I mean, it depends. Like, if it's a dispensary, you're tracking all of your sales, all of your inventory.
So there was like...
Yeah, you still had to... I mean...
There was like a list of things you needed to track.
Yes, yeah, and you still had, like, labeling requirements, and you still had to have, like, proper documentation for transportation, but because it wasn't on a state tracking system, it was kind of like the Wild West, where people would... there was a lot of legacy activity that was happening out there. And actually, I think that Oklahoma is on Metrc, but when we did that migration, the license owners sued the state about it because it was like it was not in their constitution that they would have to use Metrc for cannabis. And there was nothing in their original, like, laws, I guess, about license holders having to purchase their own, like, plant tags and package tags. That's a Metrc thing. And so because think about these plant tags. Plant tags, I believe, are 25 cents a tag. Product tags or package tags are like 50 cents a tag, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you've got, all of a sudden you're being told that you have to do this, you have to have these tags, and you've got 4,000, 5,000 plants or more, it adds up pretty quickly. So it was not super fair, and it was very, like, you could see that there was a big money grab happening, and that's why they sued and they won. So I think it just got delayed, though. I believe it was inevitable, and I think that they are on Metrc now, but I have not worked with anybody in Oklahoma in a few years now.
Yeah. Well, I want to get back to maybe some of the negative things about Metrc that you might have heard, but I want to just stay on course with some of the things that the industry can expect out of this changeover, because it does seem it will happen, and what else? I mean, look, I want to acknowledge the fact that you, and maybe this is unprecedented, I don't know, a state switching mandated seed to sale systems?
We actually have done a podcast about when they did that in Washington.
Okay.
Okay. We
did?
We
Me and
did.
you?
Yeah, we
Okay.
talked with Gregory Foster, who was on the Washington Cannabis something board, and they had switched from using a state tracking system to self-reporting. They had ended their contract with their seed to sale.
Who was
provider.
it? Do you remember?
I believe they had a company called MJ Freeway.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, across the United States, Metrc is essentially monopolizing. They are the lowest bidder in every state. They, I think, from what I knew, Illinois and Florida were the only states that were not using Metrc. They were both using BioTrack, and then I know BioTrack got bought out recently, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Florida is also about to be switching to Metrc as well.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It's a good name, Metrc.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's like, I like the meme that's like, we don't use, or like, I never use the metric system, but it's like me with a 9mm and 8 grams in my pocket. Anyway. So anyways, that's a little shout out for our firearm Chillinoisans. But anyways, our firearm wielding Chillinoisans. Okay, so what else what have we not covered with regard to what the industry can expect? Okay, so you've said cultivation center employees maybe should expect to spend some time bagging and tagging, for lack of better words, new
tagging,
things.
Yeah.
Anything else that we're like, okay, so cultivation center, we talked a little bit about retail, and you said that maybe people should expect some time for retail employees to adjust maybe to new point of sale software that interfaces with Metrc. I guess, yeah, it's probably hard to answer that question. I was going to say what else should retail employees expect, but it's probably hard to answer that question because you don't know what the point of sale system would be.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to like retail workers and what to expect, the higher up you are on the food chain, the more likely it is to be a pain in the ass for you. But if you're, just a regular everyday bud tender, you're just going to have to likely learn something new. It's not going to be a lot of legwork for you. And, usually training on that stuff is pretty quick and pretty painless, I guess. But, everybody's got to learn. It's a new thing to learn, so it'll take time.
Yeah. So, I guess, if we were to compare Metrc to other seed to sale systems, how do you feel it stacks up?
Well, they're pretty notorious for having a lot of downtime, and I don't know if anybody else has ever been trying to visit a dispensary while BioTrack was down, but unless the rules have changed since I was working at a dispensary, it's everybody out of the building if BioTrack is down. And yeah, Metrc is kind of bad about that, but I don't know. I haven't had to do a ton on their platform other than migrations, so I can't complain too much.
You said what was that last part? Sorry, I'm double.
I know you're reading the internet while you're listening.
So other people just heard what you said. What was that last part you just said?
I just said that. I don't know. Honestly.
It's okay. Well, I googled Metrc cannabis issues. It's just interesting to see like some of the headlines that pop up. Metrc downtime in California causes a lot of heartburn. Don't put that out. I'm still smoking that. For marijuana companies, I've heard people from Maine specifically shout out to, I think his username is Getting High with Cats.
Oh.
His name's Shirley. He's really interesting fella, and I love what he stands up for. Like, he's really, you know how I am, like home grow and no license limitations, and that's what he seems to be all about. I need to get him on the show sometime. He's from Maine. He talks about the OCP, which I didn't realize what the OCP was until I see it right now. It's the Office of Cannabis Policy. He's always like, the goddamn OCP. I'm like, what is the OCP, dude? But anyways, the OCP literally has like just a little bit of guidance on Metrc glitches if licensees try to finalize several sales at the same time. Some more issues detailed about California. Here's the press release about Illinois. Look at this headline. Software to regulate legal marijuana is just as error-ridden. Maybe is that what the headline is? Let's see. Error-prone as government software that can hurt business. We need to talk to you about your ad blocker. You can kiss my ass. Aaron Shepard took a job at the Green Wave dispensary in Southern Maryland in mid-May. Registered medical cannabis patient himself. Where's the part about Metrc? Let's get to it.
I saw Metrc.
Oh. The gig proved so frustrating, he quit after 6 weeks. Green Wave wasn't the problem. It was Maryland's mandatory cannabis tracking Metrc software, which checks a patient's prescription and purchase history at every sale. Metrc was repeatedly bogged down with user traffic, sometimes for hours. Patients sat waiting, and some who traveled some distance drove home empty-handed. The final straw was when a woman using a wheelchair waited more than an hour to buy some cannabis to no avail. Irritated, she and her husband left so she could go home to take her other meds. Shepard says it practically put me in tears. Maryland is among 30 states so far that have legalized recreational or medical cannabis, and the vast majority of them require close tracking, known as seed to sale, of the plant. Maryland is also one of 10 states, plus D.C., that are using Metrc, a product of Franwell. Seven others use software from Florida-based BioTrack THC, and 2, Pennsylvania and Washington, have signed up for MJ Freeway, software made by Denver-based Leaf Data Systems.
I wonder how old that article is.
Yeah, sorry, I was muting this really quick. This article is from, I think it was from 2018.
Oh, wow.
So it's an old article.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's stacking up with some of the things you seem to have experienced. When the software doesn't perform, the industry and its customers suffer. In 2018, in addition to rejecting patients, glitches caused by high levels of user traffic left dispensaries in Maryland unable to make transactions, costing them significant amounts of money, retail managers said. Looks like in 2017, Oregon's marijuana growers and distributors complained of spending valuable man-hours updating inventory and Metrc and dealing with slow connections during peak harvest season. So, all very interesting stuff. And it's all kind of adding up with what you're saying. So, downtime, it's a common occurrence?
Yes. Metrc puts rates on, they have throttling. So,
Why?
I don't know. But you can only, one IP address can only send them.
Are you allowed
so
to discuss
much
this?
data.
Have you signed NDAs with Metrc?
Not with Metrc, no.
Okay. All right.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think this is proprietary information. I'm sure it's available out there somewhere, but
yeah, I mean, if they get you for this, they'll have to deal with me too. So it's whatever.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Like, you know what they say, you can't get blood from a turnip. So good luck. They're coming after me.
I didn't know that they say that.
They
but,
do.
Okay. All right.
But
anyways,
yeah, they throttle their limits, which is more of a pain in the ass.
What do they throttle for? Because I get actually I don't get when internet companies do it, but but let's just say, like, you wanted to give a certain subsect of the population, or maybe a certain group of people, like, a certain bandwidth, and so you throttle a certain group of people that you deem less worthy. But, like, how... Okay, and I'm not saying I agree with that, because, again, that's horrible.
Right.
But you can see how that would play out. How does throttling come into cannabis seed-to-sale tracking?
Okay, so this is a little bit of tech information.
Sure.
For any listeners that don't work in the tech industry. So how it works is every time so if we're talking about the point of sale system, every time you sell an item out of your inventory or bring an item in, each one of those actions is what's referred to as a call. And it's basically a send of a large amount of information or return of a decent sized bit of data. And so with Metrc, with their throttling, they only allow you to make so many calls to their system within a certain time period. So if you were doing something like a massive harvest, you are likely to notice, like if you're a cultivator and you're doing a massive harvest, you're likely to notice potentially it slows down while you're trying to put your information in. But I think here's the part where maybe this steps out of bounds of an NDA, is that they primarily only throttle third-party integrators. So, yeah. So it's likely to just be in dispensaries, and it'll just be kind of, I don't know. You can only be so busy with Metrc, I guess.
Well, and what you just said seemed to, if the folks want to play it back, I'm not going to start up my laptop because it was just about to die, but because we've been live streaming the Illinois General Assembly, the riveting, anyways, it seems the way you just said stacks up with something that was said in 2018, which is that if too many customers are being processed at the same time, it, quote, what do they say, freezes or goes down?
Yeah, so think about like 420. Like that is when you need to have the capacity to make a lot of calls in a short amount of time, because you're presumably
my thing is like what there's no, you're sending numbers, like what are we throttling? Like I get it when it's like data, like what, and I'm not saying I get it, I'm not saying I support it, I want to just say that again. But like when you're talking like data, when you're streaming, like I'm watching the news Stranger Things, or whatever, like in fucking 4K. Okay,
but if you're watching that on the TV, and then you're watching, Chimp Empire on another device in 4K, and you're watching something else in really high definition, and you're downloading movies at the same time. See,
I get where theoretically you might want to throttle somebody like that, but like what I'm saying is with cannabis seed to sale, you're sending like, I got 14 grams, I got 5 grams, I don't know, I was about to start singing a song, but like you're not sending intense data. What are we throttling for? I just like wonder, like maybe if in other states there are just so many dispensaries, but like what? Like this would seem like a simple SFTP, like just a file transfer protocol. You just fucking like send a couple of numbers through. Like, what are we throttling?
Maybe their servers are just like one tower in somebody's basement,
some fucking
supporting like 15 states simultaneously.
This is crazy, folks. I mean, this is what we're signing up for.
This is what happens behind the scenes.
This is what we can expect.
Yeah.
I think this is what we might be able to expect. I hope that we don't look back at this podcast. I mean, it'd be pretty fucking cool, I'm not gonna lie, if they were like, God damn, we heard it here first. You know what I mean? But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, because of the way that things go in the state of Illinois, and if like you just had said earlier, that Metrc tends to be the lowest bidder, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how they get their contracts. They just undercut, and then presumably they make their money back by charging for plant tags and package tags from the people that have no choice but to use Metrc and purchase those tags.
You have to purchase tags from them?
In some states. Not in all states. It depends on how the state has done their contract negotiation.
I'm sure we have to purchase tags.
I'm sure, yeah.
You gotta give them, they gotta get their cut.
Yeah.
So, okay. Because the tags, that they can only print the tags. Is that the deal?
Right, because they're RFID tags.
Okay. What does that mean?
Radio frequency identification tags. So they have, like, essentially each tag has a special microchip in it, and it allows you, as far as like from an inventory control perspective, if everything has an RFID tag on it, theoretically, if you have an RFID tag scanner, you could just like walk into like an area with plants and push a button on the scanner, and it'll register every plant in that area without you having to individually scan it. So it is kind of a more efficient system, but it is, it's a more expensive system, I guess.
Interesting.
Might make state checkups a little faster, because usually it's your Illinois State Police officer is there, and they have a spreadsheet, and they will just ask for random package IDs or whatever, and you're expected to find that on the shelf and count it and tell them how many you have, and that's basically how an audit happens. So, it may make it easier, but probably not actually. I'm thinking of how the tagging system actually works. Disregard what I just said. It's not going to really make it that much easier, because a package is like a group of many items, and you still need to know the individual item counts, which will not be, that's not a package tag on each individual item.
Got it. Well, okay. What are some other issues? Downtime seems like a pretty big issue, mm-hmm. But are there any other this is just a Metrc thing?
I don't know, as far as for employees at dispensaries or at cultivation facilities, if anything goes wrong, their support is not very responsive, but that could have changed, because I have been looking on the job boards, and they've been doing some hiring specifically for like customer service reps for the Midwest.
Okay.
So they may be improving their support, but historically it's been very slow to respond.
Yeah. Are they helpful?
No. Not really. Not in my experience.
Are they friendly?
No.
No? Are they not that it matters to me, but I'm just wondering, you said they're hiring in the Midwest. Do they outsource their calling, or do they...
Not that I know of.
People from around here?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And do they... Okay. I'm just wondering what it's like to work at Metrc.
I mean, I can imagine pretty closely. I feel like
it's just probably like, we need to be able to, I don't even know.
You get a lot of calls like, hey, we accidentally deleted this tag out of our system. How do we bring it back? That kind of stuff, Or I need to adjust this package, but I can't find it, or something like that. Can't find it in the system. It's not going to be anything too crazy. I can't imagine. Other than the panicked calls when the system goes down.
Yeah. Have you... I guess just directly, so the state has told me that the reason that we can't sell seeds in dispensaries is because BioTrack can't sell or can't track what I think they call static items.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can't remember if it's dynamic items or static items. I don't know. But do you or have you ever experienced or worked with selling seeds via Metrc? Do other states do seed to sale, literally seed to sale like that? Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I would assume so.
but
I would think yes, but I don't know for sure.
Never personally experienced it. Okay,
No.
well that's interesting. What about just flip side? Like, I guess, yeah. Have you ever worked with? I don't want to. I mean, since we're moving away from BioTrack, I don't want to spend too much time. But do you have to support? Have you supported people on BioTrack?
Personally, no, but I was the BioTrack subject matter expert at the dispensary.
Yeah. What I'm saying make any sense about, or what the state told me make any sense about not being able to track seeds? Like, what do you think that means? Like, do you feel like you could think of a way to track seeds if you really needed to?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, if we could keep track of inventory for ancillary items, I don't understand.
What is ancillary? Oh, so like you
like
could
pipes,
keep...
papers, filters.
So that sounds like bullshit then.
Yeah.
So you would have to track that through BioTrack?
You do, but it's more of just for the purpose of being able to add it onto like the receipt or the order. Okay. But it's not tracked. Like there's tracked and there's non-tracked items. So non-THC items can still be
but I bet
in
you
your inventory.
Seeds though need to be tracked. I bet you that's the issue.
Yeah,
maybe.
But I just don't. Yeah, I don't. When I used BioTrack, I never had to. I don't think I ever had to like create products out of scratch to put into the inventory, like as far as in the inventory system. So
does that mean that like, oh,
so
well, when you say that,
I don't know if you can create something like seeds as a tracked item.
Yeah.
Which I think is basically what you were saying.
I don't know, I'm confused. So you're saying that when you received the item, it was already in your inventory because it was already in the seed to sale system?
Essentially, yes. It's like a data transfer. But cultivator creates a sales order.
I think though that's what they're saying is that, and I heard it from, the Cannabis Business Association. I believe I asked specifically if the seeds could be sold, and I think the perspective that Pamela Altoff shared was that cultivators don't have a way to input that into BioTrack.
Yeah,
which is what you're saying, I think. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other things on Metrc, downtime? Any other things we should expect or consider? Or...
Not that I can think of.
Oh yeah, you were talking about support. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Support.
Yeah, but I mean, that'll be fine. It'll be all right.
Yeah,
we'll get through it.
Yeah, I guess I hope. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you'll be able to answer this question candidly, but because I don't know I mean, you have a lot of things that I didn't have the answer to either. I'm not saying that, but like, let me just put it this way. The last time we had a transition with the medical cannabis program, like from the patient portal thing, it was like really bumpy and some people were locked out of it. Some people didn't even know. Some people didn't get an email. Some people did get an email. Some people that got the email couldn't access. Like there were so many, it was all over the place. It was crazy. I have to imagine that this has got to affect that somehow, but this is such a wild card. Both of us would be speculating if we were to talk about this. So
because I'm not exactly sure how the patient tracking translates from the state website to the
well, the patient. I just don't even know. I just hope that nothing gets fucked up with the patient portal. Like I don't know how it interfaces with the seed to sale. Yeah, I can't imagine it would, but you just never know. So, folks, I just bring that up as maybe a heads up if you've listened this far. And I personally, as a patient, don't ever have to access it, but occasionally to maybe access my digital card if I'm in another state, or perhaps to try to get a medical cannabis discount. But that's about it. So, but just keep it in mind if you have to access it regularly, I guess. I don't know. You never know. You never really know. All right. Well, I'll just ask again, before we wrap up, anything you feel it didn't cover, I guess. I was talking a lot about the issues. Are there good things? I don't know. I just want to give you space before we wrap up. Anything we didn't mention?
Good things wise, I mean, I guess the interface is a little bit sleeker, but that's about all I got. Yeah.
So to recap, I mean, from your perspective, there's BioTrack, MJ Freeway, Metrc.
Mm-hmm. And that's about it.
That's about it.
Or self-reporting.
BioTrack, MJ Freeway, Metrc. 3 companies. Or self-reporting. Wow. 3 companies.
Yeah.
Seems like that's somebody out there, if you're listening, if you want to talk about a business opportunity.
Well, I think that I would think that anybody who has like a seed to sale platform could apply or could bid to be a state tracking system, but good luck. I mean, but
they did it. How did they do it? Metrc and BioTrack and all them, how'd they do it?
By accepting very low contract amounts, I'm assuming. Yeah, so it's like you have to have enough money to be able to take a hit for a long time until it.
Yeah, but if you're gonna be a fucking like you said, if Metrc is establishing a monopoly in all these states, and it's a perspective I've heard, frankly, that Metrc is becoming more and more regular in all these states, or more and more adopted, and yeah, I mean, shit. If there's any time, it's now, before Metrc just has all 50. Like, mm-hmm. You better get in.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah. So, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, all right. Well, once again, anything else?
No, but if anybody from Metrc is listening, I applied for a job there. Aren't you sad you didn't hire me?
All right.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, folks. Well, I hope you found as much value in this conversation as I did. I'll see you on the next episode of the Chillinois Podcast.
Bye.
Goodbye.